Really excited for today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. We've got a fill-in-the-blank edition of the program coming your way. Who are some of your favorite Duke basketball players over the last decade? We'll talk three-point percentages for the upcoming season and so much more. Locked On Blue Devils starts right now.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So great to have you here with us today on Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics with a whole lot of conversation around the Duke men's basketball program that we know and love so much. Today, we've got a fill-in-the-blank episode where we're going to be talking all things Duke basketball. You guys sent in a couple of these topics via email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com. Really want to shout out Stewie, the Duke guy, who sent us several via email. So, Stewie, shout out to you. Appreciate your hard work and listening to us each and every day. Joining me for this project today is going to be our good pal, Raul Clement, who's back from the Devil's Den podcast. So can't wait to dive into this here with you. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly there on the Apple Podcast platform. The algorithms love that sort of thing. Also, make sure that you follow us on social media at LO_Blue Devils on X. Find Locked On Blue Devils on TikTok and Instagram as well. And then finally, our last request is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're so close to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube and can't wait to celebrate that milestone with all of you guys. So without further ado, he's back once again. The aforementioned Raul Clement is here with me today on the show. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Good, man. It feels like I was just on here yesterday or something.
And now we're back at it. We get to go back at it and got a fun fill-in-the-blank conversation for us to have. This time of year, Raul, it's kind of fun to think about various things, not only for this upcoming year's team, but also reflect back on some of our favorite teams from the past, man, because you know this in the content creation space, man. Sometimes you can't quite have that fast forward button to get to the first game of the year like we really want to get to.
Yeah. You know, it really is the dark days of summer if you're a basketball fan. There's just nothing going on. So
yeah, no, you're just waiting. And then obviously on the football side, we're still 2 weeks away from the start of that season, even getting up and going. So fun to have some fill-in-the-blank conversations today. And we've got a good one right out of the gates here. Duke is blank rated in the national conversation currently. And the premise here is kind of looking for that overrated, underrated. How do you want to answer this one? Take a stab at it. Duke is blank rated in that conversation.
Well, I think it depends on what you're looking at. If we're going by like the way too early polls, Duke is definitely underrated. So ESPN released theirs like a week ago, I think.
Yeah.
And they had Duke at 12th. To me, that is just far too low. I see Duke more in the like 5 to 10 range. Gary Parrish had Duke at 9th. I still feel that's just a bit too low. I would go like 6th or 7th to start out. I think Duke could even finish higher. It's just I want to be a little bit conservative because there's so many new pieces. Now, Vegas has Duke as the 4th highest odds to win the title. So I don't think Duke is underrated by Vegas standards at all. Maybe just a touch overrated there, but
look, we can settle with properly rated if we need to.
Yeah. I would say in Vegas they're about properly rated. In the national polls and by pundits so far, they're a little bit underrated. I actually just spoke to Jeff Goodman for our podcast.
Yeah.
And he agreed. He said 12 was way too low.
Yeah, I've kind of felt that way as, looking at where the Duke team is and the fact that they've got 5 guys returning from last year's team. Everybody else in America is not afforded that luxury of having so many guys coming back. And it's going to be a larger role, sure, for those 5 returners than what they were asked to do this past season. However, that continuity, you just can't create those things. It takes time to develop. And for Duke, they're kind of fast-tracked a little bit with how quickly they were able to get that chemistry figured out. And now they're only having to worry about factoring in the new freshman pieces to the squad.
Right. And everybody always makes the point of how teams are getting older and older in the portal. But the thing is, that's still not continuity, right? You're
Right.
bringing in like 7 or 8 new portal guys. Those guys have never played together.
Yeah.
They might have played in college for 4 or 5 years, but that's not the same thing. So I
Right.
think Duke has a little bit of an advantage here where being able to bring 5 guys back who know the system and know each other is just a unique luxury. And when you look up and down the national landscape, there's not a lot of teams that have that. Like maybe Purdue would
Yeah.
be, and they're of course ranked number 1. So it's like, well, if Purdue is ranked number 1, why isn't Duke closer to that range considering what they're bringing back and what they have coming in?
Yeah, I think consensus right now, a lot of people, Purdue, Houston, the top 2 teams that everybody's kind of chasing after. And of course, Houston was the team ultimately that ended Duke's season there in the Final Four. We'll see how they play going into the season. But in general, the fact that Duke has the continuity piece, I would agree with you. I think that's being underrated. It's not looked at properly. I'm glad Las Vegas seems to agree with Duke being the consensus as one of the top teams in the sport this season. So certainly loved it. So many of these other teams, it's like, cool, man, 7 or 8 new guys. It's their 3rd school each that they're trying to figure out, where certain things are at on campus. Whereas Duke does not have that issue, man. Everybody's kind of locked in and has been there for the long run. All right, next one here. Fill in the blank. Let us know also what you guys thought in the comments below about some of these. Here's a statistical guess. Duke's 3-point percentage will be blank this year.
I'm going to go.
Love the 3-point shot, Raul.
Yeah, I do. The spacing that it opens up for, the big men and all that is just incredibly valuable in today's game. And I think we've seen Shire loves it too, right?
Yeah.
He's bringing in Evan Brads from Utah, and that was a big emphasis in their system as well. So I still expect Duke to take a lot of threes. Now, last year, Duke shot almost 39%, and that was 12th nationally. I don't think it's going to be quite that good this year. That was just like, one of the better shooting teams Duke has ever had. So I think that's a little
so
bit
much about
unrealistic.
the great shooters that Duke has on last year's squad, right?
Yep.
Several of them had over 40% clips, right? But then to remind people, you got to take the average of everybody. So your poor shooters might bring that down a little bit. So yeah, to your point, that squad finished 38.6% shooting from 3-point range, even having all of those amazing 3-point shooters that the team had as well. So throw a number out there, man.
I'm going to go really precise, 36.7%, because if I get it right, I look really cool. And if not, nobody remembers, right?
Yeah, Raul, I was in that ballpark, man, because I wanted to go really precise as well, but I can't follow your lead. I do think it obviously has a little bit of regression. It'll take a step back. Let me go not too far behind you. I'll settle on 35.9 is kind of where I will. And we'll take it. I think they're going to be some great shooters on the Duke team as well. And to your point, it feels like the volume is going to increase for some of those guys. And just the focus of the offense is still going to be like, hey, if you get a good look, shoot the basketball.
And just having Isaiah Evans out there for perhaps 30 minutes a game this year, if his role does in fact increase, that alone can, make this a good shooting team. For example, 2 years ago, there weren't a lot of great shooters on the team, but Jared McCain was out there taking so many shots. You had Jeremy Roach is a really good shooter. Those 2 guys alone just boosted the percentages up to like a nice, I think it was 37 2 years ago or something in that range.
What a luxury to have those guys on the squad. All right, let's continue this thing. It's fill in the blank here today on the program, and we'll continue this conversation here in just a moment. Lockdown Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life and portfolio together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and so much more. I was able to link all my accounts and immediately spotted a few subscriptions that I wasn't even using anymore. I was able to cancel those easily. I'm able to just see how much I'm spending on things like food delivery so I can budget smarter and save more, although I am a sucker for food delivery, that's for sure. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Monarch Money is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, forward we go here on the program. He's Raul Clement from the Devil's Den podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Filling in the blank today. Again, thanks to Stewie the Duke guy who sent us an email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, with so many of these topics that we're going to be able to discuss and dive into here today. On to the next one. The most even matchup on the schedule this year is blank. It's a loaded non-conference schedule this year for Duke.
I mean, yeah, this one gave me some trouble just because there were so many good options, right?
Yeah.
Like that non-conference schedule is just brutal. And then even within conference, you've got Duke playing Louisville twice. That could have been an answer. At Louisville, I expect to be a hotly contested game, but I think I'm going to go with Duke versus Florida in the ACC SEC challenge. Now, my rationale for that is Florida, I think, is projected like top 3, top 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have Duke in that kind of 5 range and Duke is playing at home and has the advantage of that, I think it's going to be a game kind of like the Auburn game was last year.
Yeah,
where
I'd agree.
Duke should pull away late, but it's going to be a tight game.
I'm right there with you, man. I think when you look at this Duke team and kind of the big games, I'm excited for that Florida matchup to take place. Both teams were in the Final Four a season ago. Both teams lost some of their absolute key stars from their teams, but still return big pieces. Florida made some additions via the transfer portal. Got a few top recruits coming in. Duke, of course, focused wholly on having the freshman class come in to boost them up. But in terms of the most even game on the schedule, it feels like Florida is kind of the way to go. I think Duke is still a cut above the rest of the opponents in the ACC in particular, right? And we see those games every single season, although I do think Louisville is going to be really tough this year for Duke. I think Virginia's improved. I think North Carolina obviously is going to be a challenge, as it is every single time those two teams step on the floor. So I think you got to look kind of beyond the ACC footprint there, and it's Florida of the non-conference games on the schedule right now where I see it being the most even.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a couple other good options. I guess you could say Michigan, who they're playing in DC, or Texas Tech at Madison Square Garden. Those teams are ranked in like the 8 to 10 range, though. So I would give Duke the advantage, especially playing in like MSG, where Duke traditionally has almost a second home court.
Yeah, no, it's, we sit here and we forget all the games that Duke's got of the non-conference. It's such a loaded schedule for them. I mean, we're going to be watching.
Exhibition game could be tough.
No kidding. Well, Tennessee one is, on the road at their place. Yeah, Duke going to be playing on Thanksgiving night against Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Really awesome to always be able to see those great NFL games on Thanksgiving. And now you've got Duke basketball to kind of whet your appetite as well. So I'm with you. I think the most even matchup on the schedule this year right now is the Florida Gators for Duke. Duke's depth this year will be blank. Man, we're talking about depth every single season for Duke basketball. And how would you answer this one, Raul?
I think it's going to be very solid is how I would put it. Like last year's Duke team, I think was the deepest we've seen probably since maybe the late 90s or something. It's been a while at any rate. So it might not match that level. Now, Duke might play just as many guys, but I'm wondering if they can get quite as good production off the bench. Because you think about a guy like Isaiah Evans just being a total flamethrower. You think about like Maliq Brown being able to come in and disrupt things defensively. Pat Gongba, he'll probably slide into the starting lineup. So you kind of take that away.
Yeah.
But we're looking at, one of Sarr or Herminia or possibly even both might not start. So that's some really good depth there. Darren Harris looks really improved. I would expect Maliq Brown to still come off the bench, so he could be like the sixth man. So I would expect that Duke is regularly going to play like 8 to 9 guys. 9 would be my number of like guys who get real substantial minutes. I think Sebastian Wilkins might take a little while, so he might be kind of the 10th guy who only gets spot minutes, games where Duke's winning by 15, 20. He might get to play the last 5 minutes, that kind of thing, but 9 guys, so very solid.
Duke basketball's depth will be blank this year. I'd say it will be perfectly fine over the course of the season. I do think there could be some bumps along the way. Earlier in the year, you think about playing more guys in your rotation, getting them a feel for game action and that sort of thing. And as we've seen over the last few seasons, as the season progresses, you really get set in your rotation, and Duke's going to be able to settle in on a pretty good one. I think the depth is going to be not that big of an issue for Duke this season. At one point, I've talked about the concern maybe for some front court depth if injuries, and again, injuries are totally unexpected, and you can't always predict for those things. So assuming a full bill of health for Duke, that's kind of where I've settled in on this conversation, because it's not like the video games, Raul, where we could just turn injuries off.
No, and it's also not like the video games where you can just have 12 guys and play them each,
Sure.
15 minutes and it all works out. Somebody's going to be unhappy. You're also not going to be playing your best guys. That's just not practical, right? I think to speak to the front court, it's like Duke has 3 really high level front court players, and most teams don't have that. So I don't see it really as a concern. And there's optionality too. Like, let's say Gongba does get in foul trouble or he gets injured, heaven forbid. You can always, in a pinch, slide Cameron Boozer to the 5. He played that a lot in high school. He's going to be fine. He's a ferocious rebounder. That'll just open up other options for more wing players to play and stuff like that. So I think Duke's going to be fine that way.
I do too. Yeah. I'm excited to see the season unfold, see what the depth looks like for the squad, and see who takes that next step forward. All right. It's Locked On Blue Devils. We're filling in the blank. We've got a few more to go here today, and we'll continue this with our guy Raul when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in just a moment. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and your first watch here today. For your second listen, make sure that you go check out The Portal Show. Locked On's very own Brian Smith has all the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. You could be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check out Locked On College Basketball with host Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. They do a great job of talking college hoops every single day. So go check it out. They're talking about our Duke Blue Devils a whole lot this time of year. You can hear a little bit more about where Duke positions itself in the national conversation like we've been talking about on today's show. Find it wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Raul Clement is here with us today on the program, talking about Duke basketball, filling in some blanks, man. And we've got some fun ones here to end it. Again, thanks to Stewie, the Duke guy, who sent us the email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com. The most underrated player of the decade so far for Duke basketball is blank. Let's see if we have the same one here.
Now, I'm assuming by the decade, you just mean the 2020s, correct?
Yeah,
not like the last 10 years.
Okay. Correct, yeah.
I'm going to have to go with Vernon Carey, and I think he gets overlooked. I think he gets overlooked simply because that 2020 team didn't get to play in the tournament. So I think that whole season almost gets overshadowed because, the whole pandemic thing and all that. People might remember that. But when you dig into Carey's numbers, his per minute production was insane.
So good, man.
Second highest PER in Duke basketball history after Zion. Per 40 minutes, he averaged 29 points per game, 14 rebounds, 2.5 blocks. Now, he only played like 23 minutes a game, so we didn't get to see that 30-point per game scoring. But just, I thought, he anchored the defense pretty well. Duke was like 12th in defense that year, so he was holding his own there. I think him and Trey Jones were really responsible for that good defense. Had a top 10 offense as well. I would have loved to see what that team could have done in the tournament had they been able to play it.
Yeah. Goodness gracious, man. We hate the pandemic for so many
Mm.
different reasons, and that certainly is one of them, robbing us of that 2020 NCAA tournament run. You're right, though, man, because it's so easy to forget about Vernon Carey Jr. and that team in particular because they did. It's so weird that that's how it kind of lines up, right? That you just think about the end of the season, the tournament
Yep.
pushes, and that's what helps you easily recall these players and these great teams for Duke. And because we didn't have that opportunity with this team, we were kind of robbed of that, man. That stinks. I think Vernon Carey Jr. is a great pool for the underrated player. I went in a different direction, however. I also went with a player who is a junior in his family, and that is Wendell Moore Jr. Is kind of where I went, man, because I think about that 2022 team, and for whatever reason, you think Paulo first. You think about A.J. Griffin. You think about Mark Williams on the interior. You think about the really big tournament run that Jeremy Roach had. But the fact that Wendell Moore Jr. was able to make the progression year by year by year and just be so steady. There were so many times that season it felt like he was the one actually initiating the offense for Duke, getting them into sets. I could think about some like putback dunks that he had that just kind of surprised, like, wow, that was a big time play that he made and that sort of thing. And dude, we just don't really see that many great multi-year players for Duke anymore. And I think that adds to it, the fact that we did get to see him for those 3 seasons before he was able to go off to the NBA and kind of start his professional career. So shout out to Wendell Moore Jr. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, he made a huge jump between his sophomore and junior season, really improved as a shooter, a ball handler. His all-around game was just so great. I mean,
Yeah,
didn't he have a triple-double? I think he did. I think
he
it's
did.
like him and RJ are the recent triple-doubles. He was just a guy who was regularly putting up 14 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Great passer for his position. You don't normally see that kind of passing from the wing there. At times, he was like Duke's sort of point forward.
Right.
So his versatility, I thought, was huge for Duke making that Final Four run.
All right. Can I give you an honorable mention? And do you have
Sure.
one as well? While I present one, think about one. Okay. I want to give some love to Matthew Hurt, man, because of what he was able to do over his 2 seasons. Similar to Vernon Carey Jr., right? There's no tournament in 2020. And then also Duke, for the first time, what ended up being the first time in my lifetime, didn't even make the NCAA tournament that season. And so you're not able to kind of see those big runs and whatnot. But the fact that, dude, that guy able to shoot it from the outside, I thought, throwing it down to him in the post throughout the course of that season for stretches was remarkable. And another player that, again, we had 2 years of Matthew Hurt wearing that Duke basketball jersey. As years move along, he's going to be one of the more forgotten guys that, they're just at a school like Duke, you got way too many players to keep up with everybody. Definitely kind of want to give some underrated love to Matthew Hurt, man. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, he had one of the best big man shooting seasons in Duke history. It's like him and Ryan Kelly, really.
Right.
And I think it was just a little bit tough for him because he was sort of an awkward fit with Jalen Johnson there. And then once Duke, once Jalen, left the program and it was Hurt and Mark Williams, they started to look a lot better because those two complemented each other, whereas Hurt and Jalen Johnson really should have been playing the same position. So I think it was just, a tough fit and then just a tough time in Duke basketball because of everything that was going on. But yeah, tremendous player. I'm not mad at that one at all.
That is one of the big what ifs, right? Because if COVID doesn't happen, you feel like that team would have been able to figure it out. Just all the guys you've named on this team fitting to, DJ Stewart's another guy that, we forget about because, and it's been, I don't know that cool is the right word, but it is reflective and really kind of nice to hear him say now, several years later, DJ Stewart reflecting on, I made the wrong decision. I should have come back for another year and that sort of thing. But
and he probably would have.
Right.
He probably would have if NIL existed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson in the fold, Mark Williams, Matthew Hurt. Gosh, man, that is one of the big what if teams.
So I've got one, and for me, it's going to be, I fluctuated between 2 people. I was thinking, first of all, you got me thinking about those teams, and I thought of Cassius Stanley. I think is really underrated as well.
I love that dude. Absolutely. Gosh.
And then the other is just
I still see
specifically.
Cassius levitating through the air
Oh,
right
yeah, yeah.
now.
So many amazing lob dunks for him.
Right.
Such great highlights. Then the other is specifically Jeremy Roach's senior season. I don't think Duke fans realize just how efficient he was as a senior.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Is like his splits were like, 48 from the field, 42 from three, like 86 from the line, something like that. Averaged like 15 points per game. Had that great synergy with Flip there, kind of that
Good
pick and
call.
roll they would always run.
Yeah.
He'd pull up for the mid-range shot. So I think, Duke fans should just kind of appreciate, even though he ended up transferring out and it didn't go well for him at Baylor, particularly a lot of that was injuries. I think Duke fans should appreciate just this guy who stayed for 4 years and really leveled up every year.
I loved that one. I love that fill in the blank that we just gave him with the most underrated player of the decade so far for Duke. Shout out Jeremy Roach. Some honorable mentions there. All right, blank. This is our last one today on the show. Blank is the most unexpected Duke basketball player to have NBA success. Let's see if we're on the same pattern here.
Now,
it took me a while to get to one, but I've settled on a choice, and no parameters to this at all. Raul,
okay.
Make your case.
All right, so I'm going back just a little bit, not too far back, but I'm going to go with Lance Thomas.
Wow, how did we end up in the same spot,
Nice.
man? I like that. Go for it.
Now, I was wondering how you were defining success, right?
Yeah.
For me, success in the NBA is, did he play a bunch of years and did he have like a significant role?
Career out of it and a role and all the shout out to Lance Thomas, man. Let's go.
I know, it's crazy.
What a way to end.
Yeah, I mean, just like when you think about his role at Duke, right? It was like purely a defender, never looked to for offense, really didn't have any offensive game to speak of. He gets in the NBA, plays 9 seasons, and like 3 or 4 of those seasons, he's playing like 20 to 25 minutes per game for the Knicks there.
Right.
He shot 38% from 3 for his career, which where did that come from? So that was the big thing for me. Like, I don't think anybody expected him to become this corner 3-point specialist that he did. The defense carrying over, okay, that was a little bit more predictable, but even so, of all the guys from that team to have a pro career, Lance Thomas was probably the last one I would pick.
And so maybe it is super difficult to come up with somebody outside, because I'm trying to, okay, I want to be different. I want to go with somebody other than Lance Thomas to highlight here. But just being attached to Duke and playing as well as so many of the guys, the guys that had NBA success, it made sense oftentimes when you look back at what they did as a college basketball player. But Lance Thomas, starts on a national championship team, but to your point, never really. I think of the putback dunk against Baylor in the Elite Eight when I think of Lance Thomas, right?
For sure.
Whereas everybody else, it feels like you could think of a few different things for them. I don't even know. I'd love to see in the comments what if anybody else comes up with names or tries to present arguments here.
Yeah, it depends on how you define it, I think. Like, you could say that Mason Plumlee still being in the NBA is surprising, right? The fact that he might even start for the Charlotte Hornets this year, 13 years into his career, that's a little bit surprising. But he was also drafted I think in the late 20s, and he was a guy who was a top 15 kind of recruit coming out of high school. So I don't regard that as surprising. And everything else I'd kind of have to I'd have to qualify it in some way. Like, it was surprising to me that McCain looked like he was on his way to Rookie of the Year. He was the 16th pick, and the fact that he looked by far the best rookie before injury, that was surprising, but I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if he has NBA success.
No. And, I think of having to work super hard to get to where you want to go and to put yourself in these positions. Quinn Cook's a 2-time NBA champion. Even though he didn't really play so much on those championship teams with the Lakers and the Warriors, or, Seth Curry being able to carry out as big of a career as he has in the NBA, but then everything that goes into it, his last name is Curry. So I don't necessarily know that you're going to put him in the unexpected category.
He had that bankable skill too, right? You're like, okay, I can see how this guy will succeed in the NBA because he is a lethal shooter.
Oh, man, this has been a whole lot of fun. Let us know in the comments what you think for these fill-in-the-blanks. Really love this back and forth that Raul and I were able to have. And shout out to Stewie, the Duke guy. on the emails, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, for giving us some of these topics. Tell us about the Devil's Den podcast, man. How can people support you guys?
Yeah, go to thedevilsden.com. You'll find the podcast linked there. You can also find us on YouTube now. Devilsden.com is just the name of the channel as well. Obviously, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. We've got some good stuff coming for you. We just did our third part of our player previews. So we looked at the front court players and did a deep dive on all of them. We talked a little bit about the open practice recently. We had John Shire on just a few weeks ago, so definitely go check that out. And then next week we will have Jeff Goodman on. We just talked to him today, so that'll come out like next Monday or Tuesday.
That's awesome. We'll be on the lookout for it. Thanks for stopping by, Raul. We'll do it again soon,
problem.
okay?
Bye.
Raul Clement joins us here on the show. Go support the Devil's Den podcast and everything that those guys have going on. Let us know in the comments what you thought about these fill in the blanks. Let's see if we can get some back and forths going. Love the engagement here from all of our everydayers. Let us know if you are an everydayer. Ray, Brad, I see you guys each and every day in the comments that you're presenting. Tim, shout out to you as well for your thoughts with the Duke football season. I see everybody, and I want to give you some love. So shout out to the everydayers we've got here on the YouTube audience as well. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.